All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about a subject that causes a lot of division. Some people might not like this video, but as the caption states, I'm going to talk a little bit about black Trump supporters and the undying loyalty that many black people have to the Democratic Party. Now, let me first say, honestly, I don't care for either Trump or Biden. And respectfully, I just think that they are both two old white men. No offense to all of my white viewers, but they are just two old white men who could care less about the needs of the everyday people. And specifically for this video, two old white men that could care less about black people. Now, the picture that you see on the caption on the thumbnail of this video is a picture that I took from the yard of a Goldsboro resident. He's a black man who I think he put the signs up about 4 years ago in the last presidential election when Trump was running with Pence against Biden and the current Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, during that time, I think the good gentleman, which I know his family, I think he garnered a lot of slack. I remember, Facebook posts and his sister actually having to come up and defend him, like, yo, that's my brother, regardless of, what his political beliefs are. Don't come at us like that. And I think one time maybe the signs were vandalized. I'm not sure. As you see, the sign is kind of messed up. But this black man who has his God-given right, his also God-given political right, chose to support and vote for, I believe, Trump. Now, there's a lot of people, a lot of black people who are coming out as either Republicans and people who are voting for Trump. I think the current governor candidate, Mark Robinson, he's a black guy. Of course, we know Tim Scott, but I'm not talking about those type of people. But just regular, everyday citizens and black citizens who feel that Trump is the best candidate for their money. And the backlash that many of them get just for expressing themselves. Now, a lot of people will say, well, Trump is racist, and that is the main thing. Whenever I talk to somebody, about why you don't like Trump, well, he's a racist. Well, how do you know that Biden is not racist? Just because someone doesn't spit racist rhetoric and prejudice rhetoric, that does not mean they're racist. Now, many people would say and look at Trump's policies when he was in office. Now, I haven't did the research, and I'm just going on what people that I've talked to and people that I've listened to that would support Trump. They would say that his policies are not racist. On the other hand, people will say, well, where Biden doesn't, spit that racist rhetoric, but his policies in the past and even the present have proved to be racist towards people. So there you have two different dynamics where we have Trump, who's, of course, once again, I don't care too much for him, and once again, I'm not too fond of Biden either. So, this is not an endorsement or a condemnation of either candidate, because I just look at the polarization and also the sensationalism and the emotionalism when it comes to Trump and how black people feel about him. You mentioned Trump. Well, we can't let him get in. Why? Because he's racist. Well, once again, 100, probably 90% of the presidents you voted for in the past years have been racist. So just because he exhibits some behavior that lets you know that he's racist. As Malcolm X said, I would prefer that you bite me with a growl rather than with a smile. So, a lot of times, these candidates will pander to the black vote. And I remember when Hillary Clinton came on Charlemagne's The Breakfast Club, and she pulled out a bottle of hot sauce out of her pocketbook. And then Charlemagne said, oh, now they're going to say you're pandering to black people. And then Hillary Clinton laughed and said, ha, 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 is it working? Almost admitting that, yeah, that is what I'm doing, And of course, everybody knows the racist statement that Biden said, 4 years ago. If you don't know whether you're going to vote for me or whether you're going to vote for Trump, then you're not black. And once again, that he's playing on, once again, the emotionalism or the label of racism that has been attributed to Trump. And so I talk a lot about, these things with some friends of mine and who are very staunch Democratic supporters. And they say, well, if Trump gets in, we're going to be back in change, all the things that they are going to do. And once again, that is an emotional reaction that has been embedded in us. And as I always mention, when Trump was president from 2016 to 2020, I didn't encounter any less or more racism than I've encountered the whole 41 years of my life at the time. Now, granted, you had some guys. I remember I was in Virginia Beach one day when you had a caravan of big pickup trucks with their little flags and their little Trump signs, and they were riding around the parking lot. But ain't nobody touch me. Ain't nobody go to my bank and stop my money from coming. Ain't nobody try to kidnap or rape my daughter. So while you have those people who will say, well, he garners people, to display racism, I would prefer that someone who has those feelings, let them be known, rather than someone who's smiling in my face and, acting like, I'm their best friend, but all the time they have vitriol, all the time they are trying to get me fired from my job, all of the time they're trying to deny me opportunities. So I would like to have it much more in my face than behind my back. And another note is the mere phrase of Trump supporter garners an image, garners an emotional, triggering imagery of, MAGA hats and taking over the world and, spitting, spewing racist. But let's be clear. That is not, what all Trump supporters are. You have those few extremists on any side. So, of course, you have those, but the average everyday working American, and once again, I have a lot of white associates and companions that I speak to, and they vote for Trump, but they're not bad people. They've displayed no racist activity. But once again, they feel like Trump is the best candidate that's going to serve and suit their particular needs. And so I just want to dispel that myth, and also, going back to the black loyal Democrats. And many people will say, well, yeah, we've been voting Democrat for years. What actually have they done? Nobody can tell me anything. But when it comes to this particular election and these past races, I don't know. Long as Trump don't get in, I say, okay, well, what are you going to get from the Democratic Party? As long as Trump don't get in, that is the most asinine reason for voting for a party, is because you don't like the other party. And once again, I cannot distinguish anything different from Trump than Biden, except Trump is very arrogant. He's very demeaning to others. He grew up a rich white kid. What do you expect? You know what I mean? So that's him in a nutshell. But a lot of people are looking beyond that, and many black people that I've talked to liked his policies, like with it what he did for the economy and those things of that nature. Then I talk to friends and they'll say, well, no, he didn't do this, he didn't do that, that was the Democrats. And everything good that happened to black people was done by the Democrats, and everything bad that has happened to black people is at the hands of Republicans. And so we have that stigma, we have that training that we have to vote Democrat no matter what. Now, one of my close friends, Dr. Jerry Grimes, whom I respect, who is very, very pro-black, but I remember one time he told me that he was a Republican. And and he explained why, and it made a lot of good sense. So when people just go off emotions, and honestly, that's what it is. We're going off emotions a lot of times, and that throws logic out the window, where we fail to look at the policy, or we fail to look at what's not being done by the Democratic Party in regards to black people, rather than what we don't want to be done by the Republican Party. And I'm going to give you a quick example. Once again, now, if you don't know, I was in a recovery program out in Pisgah Forest, North Carolina. Not a lot of black people out there, right? And I was in a recovery program sometimes I was the only black person in the group. Out of about 30, 40, 50 people, I might be the only black person in the group. Now, I went in 2019. So, of course, at the beginning of 2019, they were gearing up for the primary. And the pastors and the ministers and the leaders at this recovery program, we had church, and they would profess their support of Trump. Well, we have to, the Democrats are for abortion, and therefore, gay marriage, and therefore, the immigrants coming over, and we want to, keep our border secure. I definitely understand them. Now, mind you, I felt kind of out of place. I'm like, wow, like are you serious? They like Trump? But then again, I had to see that Trump was speaking to their needs. Regardless of their political stance, of their wanting him to be the president, which he didn't win, but they were not people riding around with horns and raising Confederate flags and spewing racist rhetoric. They weren't. They were just people who were Republicans and felt that Trump and his beliefs and his policies were the best thing for them, and those people were the same people praying to the same God, helping a lot of addicts who come in there, helped me get sober. They were out doing great work in the community, doing God's work. But once again, they just felt that Trump was the best for their needs. And I can understand why, because when we used to go out and fundraise out there in the mountains, we would be standing in front of Walmart for 13 hours. There were some days that I stood in front of that Walmart fundraising, selling t-shirts and bracelets. I did not see not one black person in the whole town for the entire day. So that opened up my eyes to say that, well, these white people are not racist. And these white people, it is not that they don't care about the issues of black people. The issue was, or the reality was, that there were no black people around. So they had no knowledge. They had no care. They had no experience with the issues of black people, because there was no black people in the town. So of course their issues and need and their concerns are going to be a lot different than mine. And so that is, what we're seeing now. Once again, it is the election time, and we see Trump is running away with the Republican Party, and I guess the only thing that the Democrats have, and I almost said we because of course I'm expected to be a Democrat, but once again I don't care for either party or either person. Let's make that clear. Um, but then of course I guess Biden is the only thing. Like we can't find nobody else. Then Biden, and people will say, well, I just think he's not mentally well or physically well enough to be leading me anywhere. And once again, both of these candidates are what, 75, 80 years old. At what point, do we say, okay, we gotta find somebody else? There's no younger, virile, able-bodied, able-minded candidates, but once again, that is the only two choices that have been put in front of us, which is a whole nother story in itself. But I've had conversation, one of my friends, they are a staunch Democratic advocate, and they think Trump is going to destroy the world, just like they told me back in 2016, which didn't happen. But they get so emotional when we have these conversations, in which I realize a lot of people do. So I realize there's probably going to be some emotional comments in the comment section about some of the things that I've said. But I don't deal in emotions. I deal in logic. So everything that I've said, once again, is my opinion and from my experiences. That just like that gentleman, who I mentioned at the beginning of the video, who has the Trump Pence sign, he has a God-given right to, vote for who he thinks is in his best interest. Now, what would you rather do? Because you always say, well, get out and vote, get out and vote, get out and vote. But then if a black person says they're voting for Trump, then they're almost hung at the gallows. And that shouldn't be. I was talking to someone earlier today, and I was like, yeah, I was explaining the situation that happened to my brother, 4 years ago when he put those signs up. And they was like, yeah, it's probably a whole lot of more black Republicans that want to come out, but they're scared to do so. Because of, once again, the undying loyalty. No matter how much they ignore the black community, no matter how much that they pander to our votes during election time, and then we don't hear from them for another 4 years, we're going to remain undyingly loyal because the Republican Party is the boogeyman. Trump is the devil. Things of that nature. And I had one friend to tell, we were discussing, and I was and they told me if I vote for Trump, I just better lose their number and not never talk to them again. And I was like, whoa, all of my good qualities, and just because I got a difference of political belief, then you wouldn't want to talk to me ever. As I said, what if your husband had everything, all the money, took care of you, treated you nice, but then he decided to vote for Trump? Would you leave the marriage? But that's how ingrained, that's how emotionally charged that these things are, that they pit, they put those images and they say vote or die. And they say, well, this is the most important election. If Trump get in, we're going to be back in slavery. It's that type of rhetoric that makes people lose their minds. Honestly, people lose their minds on the election time. And I'm probably some people are going to lose their minds at this video. But once again, as I mentioned in the beginning, I don't think either one of those candidates, and I think either side of the party, are the wings of the same bird. This foundation, this country is built off capitalism. And so I'm going to tell you, as Mayor Rothschild stated back in 1700s, he said, give me the control of a country's currency and I care not who makes the laws. What is he saying? It don't matter who is the president. I am the puppet master. You know, America is an oligarchy. It's not a democracy. It's not a republic. It is an oligarchy. And I've heard Michael Eric Dyson and Cornel West use that term a lot of times. What is an oligarchy? An oligarchy is where a small group of people have control of a country, organization, or institution. It is well documented that there is a 1% of the people that rule the world, that makes the laws, that put these people in place who you think are arch enemies. And it is still my belief that after the press conferences and after the elections, Trump and Biden get on the phone and call each other and say, yeah, where you going tonight? I'll meet you over there. We're going to have some drinks. Right? Because all of these people run in the same circles. Once you get to the level that they are at, the average American citizen is not your concern. You're following the dictates and the mandates of the particular system that you are ingratiated to. You're taking orders from the oligarchs. And that's what this is, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm saying this and I'm speaking this because there's a lot of division that comes along this time. There's a lot of division. And I see, you know, churches who pray to the same God each and every day, but then they're going to say, well, this candidate is bad. But then the same church over on the other side of town with a different demographic will say, well, this candidate is bad. But we worship the same God. So what does it say in the scripture? God is not the author of confusion, right? So how can one body of Christ have two different perspectives on who's bad and who's not bad? Something's wrong there, wouldn't you say? The same church that I was at in Pisgah Forest, North Carolina, thought Trump was the best candidate. When I came home to North Carolina, when I went to my church, my father, the pastor, and many other churches, I'll just use this because, you know, he painted Trump as the devil. He's a liar. He's this and that and the other. He's a racist. But we pray to the same God. So is God confused? Or are we confused of what is important? But you know, I just saw that sign. I've been meaning to make this video, and you know, because the primaries have ended, we pretty much know that, you know, Trump is going to be Trump and Biden again, and we're going to have these conversations. We're going to have these emotionally charged, hey, vote, because if you don't, the world as we know it is going to end if Trump gets in. And then the Biden went, yeah, we win, but life still goes back to normal. What did we get? I don't know, but as long as Trump didn't get in, and I just see past all of that, man. So I don't, you know, put too much stock in this political system, especially when it once again comes to black people, because you know this country has shown us, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, you know, oftentimes it is us who gets the short end of the stick and often get neglected. And so I just want to leave that with you. If you plan on going out to vote, go out and vote, but also do your research. Don't just vote because, you know, you've been voting this way for a long time, or your father voted this way, or your mother voted this way, or, you know, because the media tells you this guy is bad and this guy is bad. You can turn to either channel, and you can turn to several different channels, and each channel will have this candidate good and this candidate bad. And you can turn to a next channel and it'll be vice versa. And so, you know, while once again I don't like Trump, and I'm not too fond of Biden, you know, it's like what do they say? The lesser of two evils, right? Well, Even if you get the lesser of two evils, what are you getting? You are still getting evil, right? If you had a chance to uh, if you needed a babysitter, right? This the analogy I use. If you needed a babysitter and you only had two choices, one babysitter was convicted of molestations 10 times, and then one babysitter was convicted of molestations 5 times. What would you do? Which one would you choose? Would you choose the one that's been convicted 5 times? Or would you say, nah, I don't want now one of you. I'll stay home and take care of my own baby. And that is, my sentiment, especially when it comes to the national election. Because I see good in both candidates, but I also see bad in both candidates, and that's just how I see it. Um, I'm not influenced by a bunch of media propaganda, a bunch of paid advertisements, a bunch of psychological warfare that's going to get me all up in emotions and losing friends and getting in arguments and slamming papers down and getting sad, getting my emotions, getting my as they say, my panties all in a bunch because of one candidate or the other. But once again, I want to commend my brother. Now it's just Mr. Lofton, I think his last name, Mr. Lofton, who stands on what he believes in. No matter how much backlash he has gotten. He has had that sign in his yard for 4 years, and he hasn't moved. And I respect that because it is his right, to vote for and choose who he believes in. And it is also your right. Now, once again, 919-587-7782. Feel free to discuss it in the comments. I've said what I said, so if all of the rhetoric, all of the divisive rhetoric, right? They say they say one nation under God, indivisible. Well, they took under God out, so we'll leave that alone. But they say indivisible, right? America is one of the most divisive countries there is, especially around election time. So, y'all be blessed. That's all I got. I hope I touched on everything I wanted to touch on, but just don't get emotional. Really, really look at what has been done. Look at both parties. Look at who runs the parties. Look at what they've done in the past. Look what they told you last 4 years and what they have done. Did it add up? Look at what they told you. Last 8 years. Did it add up? Did you reap any benefits? Have we reaped any benefits? But yeah, shout out to to everybody who exercises their right to participate in the political process, and also thanks to those who went out and voted for me, little old me, District 3, for Board of Education, seat 3. I hope everybody has a blessed night. Y'all be blessed. Peace and blessings.